Cryptotrader is proudly brought to you by Element, a full-service investment bank for the digital token capital markets.
Welcome to this week's edition of Cryptotrader. As promised, this week we're coming to you from the land of yachts, fast cars, and of course money. Where's the money being made in Miami? Well, now the money's being made in crypto. Because Miami houses the biggest Bitcoin conference in the whole world. It's called the North American Bitcoin Conference. There are 4,500 delegates, 500 coins exhibiting, and the biggest lineup of speakers that anyone's ever seen at a crypto conference. So this is a show you don't want to miss. So 2018 has been dubbed the year of alts, and it seems that everybody's forgotten about, well, Bitcoin. Sean Walsh just got off the stage and did a fantastic talk on Bitcoin and where we are. Sean, where are we with Bitcoin? It seems like everyone's forgotten about it.
Well, it's true that many altcoins and ICOs have had banner years. If you look at, I don't know, Ripple over the last 2 months, I mean, it's just ripped. And that's made people very excited about the altcoins. You know, Bitcoin still went up 1,200% last year, but some people think, oh, maybe Bitcoin is past its prime or something like that. What I see is great evidence to support continued growth of the Bitcoin network and the Bitcoin ecosystem, and we can go through some specific details.
So let's talk about it. What are you seeing that is encouraging you to say that there is still growth for Bitcoin and the ecosystem?
One of the biggest signs that I see was launched on August 1st of 2017, and that's a sort of a sidecar or an upgrade or an altcoin or the devil, depending on who you are, called Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash is essentially the Bitcoin core or the Bitcoin legacy network, but it's got extraordinary growth potential for transaction volume because the Bitcoin core network is capped at 400,000 transactions a day, and we've pegged that cap. We've been at that limit for months, and that's why you see transaction fees going so high. On the flip side, with Bitcoin Cash, over the last 90 days, we've seen transaction volume quadruple as a result of the widespread support with Coinbase and blockchain.info and BitPay supporting and embracing Bitcoin Cash, which to me is inside of the Bitcoin bubble.
So you refer to Bitcoin as Bitcoin plus Bitcoin Cash. You almost said like
right.
as a why?
It's kind of, to me, it's kind of like two brothers that fight with each other very aggressively, and the older brother is disparaging the younger brother, and the younger brother is ratting out the older brother, but really they're brothers, and I would draw them in the same dashed line, and they can be used for different things, and they have, you know, different aspects of value.
Where do you see the majority of the growth coming from?
Well, right now, we're just seeing growth in transaction volume on the Bitcoin Cash network. However, if you look at the Bitcoin core network, there are these so-called layer 2 networks that many companies are, well, a few companies are working on releasing, which could be useful for certain use cases, certain types of financial transactions. If the layer 2 systems are, released, there's a bit of controversy around them as well as to whether or not they'll just become centralized clearinghouses like the traditional banking system, but let's just set that aside. The point is that the real growth that we're seeing right now is in Bitcoin Cash because the transaction volume is just growing so rapidly.
What are the indicators that you're looking for to tell you that Bitcoin is growing? I think you mentioned the number of wallets is increasing. What else are you looking at that gives you a bullish sign about Bitcoin and the future of Bitcoin?
Yeah, you do need to look deeper than just the headline metric of what is the price doing from one day to the other, because there are so many factors that are going to influence the short-term perturbations in price. But what I look at is transaction volume, and as I mentioned on the Bitcoin Cash brother is growing like a weed. The Bitcoin Core brother sort of capped at 400,000 transactions a day, but taken as a whole, there's a rapid growth rate. I look at the number of wallets that contain a certain amount of Bitcoin. That's also exploding. Although it may not explode forever because it's sort of like the law of large numbers. So if Bitcoin price were to go to 100,000, then the number of people that would actually own one Bitcoin would actually start to decline. So then we'd look at Bitcoin wallet with certain fiat denominated balances in them. But in both of those cases, the wallet growth and the transaction growth, I see great signs for continued appreciation in the value of the Bitcoin family, so to speak. And that tends, because the coin is really just a piece, a representation of the total value. So the coin price might go up as well.
What about the supply curve for Bitcoin? You showed a very interesting slide that shows that as the price of Bitcoin goes up, unlike a traditional asset, in a traditional asset, when the price goes up, people are more tempted to sell it and take profits. But with Bitcoin, it seems that as the price goes up, because it's so scarce, people seem to be holding on to it much tighter.
Yes, it's the economic principle of the price elasticity of supply. So if you're, a farmer for soybeans or corn, or you make fidget spinners or, sunglasses, if the price for your product goes up in the marketplace, then you get more competition. More competition comes into the market, and that attenuates the price appreciation. But with Bitcoin and most cryptocurrencies, frankly, you have a declining rate. It's really, the rate of new coin production is cliff diving, as you saw on the chart that I put up on stage. And when you have a situation like that, you have a negative price elasticity of supply, which means that, just like you described, people hoard their coins as price goes up, which causes supply to go down, which causes a virtuous spiral upwards.
So it's a self-fulfilling, almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's my view.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here. I mean, you mentioned that Bitcoin is a family. It's two brothers. It's Bitcoin Cash on the one side and Bitcoin on the other side. And as much as they bicker and argue, they're still both Bitcoin. But if you had $100 today and you had to put your money on one of the brothers, where would you put your $100?
You mean you're not going to allow me to split that 100 between the two brothers?
You have to pick a brother. You have to choose a child.
Well, I'm going to get trolled for the next week on Twitter for saying this, but I'd put my 100 on Bitcoin Cash.
You'd put your 100 on Bitcoin Cash. With all the talk about regulation, everyone's talking about the difference between a security token and a utility token. And if you've been following the ICO scene, what you'll realize is that many of the ICO guys are trying to create tokens that are securities tokens, but disguised as utility tokens. That way they can get them listed on exchanges and they become liquid. But the truth is, when you analyze the tokens, a lot of these tokens should be securities tokens. So Tzero is launching the world's first regulated tokenized securities exchange. And I've got Joe with me, who's the CEO of Tzero. Joe, what's the reason for needing a tokenized or a securities exchange for tokens?
So Tzero, we've been in business prior to that speed route, executing the fabric of Wall Street for about 7 years. We represent some large broker-dealers and exchanges where we execute about 2.5% of the US exchange volumes on a daily basis. From that standpoint, we've been watching carefully what's going on in the ICO market. We have an ATS that's been approved for digital securities. We've engaged in digital securities. Overstock issued the first ever public security that was issued, traded, cleared, and settled entirely on the blockchain, away from DTCC and traditional Wall Street avenues. And we were watching this ICO market, waiting for regulation to come in. Very concerned that what was going on was a little bit of the wild, wild west. And we decided to come out with the first ever security token to initiate this market and get ICOs into a regulated format utilizing the blockchain.
So you came out with the first regulated securities token, but there are a lot of tokens that are securities tokens and are disguised as utility tokens.
That's correct, and the SEC has come out with guidance back in July of 2017 and made it very clear that a lot of these ICOs appear to be securities and may in fact be in violation of federal securities laws. So we've been very cautious. Again, being in a regulated environment, we're well aware of the rules and regulations. We have all the systems and infrastructure, and that's what we're setting out to improve upon.
So is T0 going to be launching an exchange where we can list securities tokens and we can legally trade securities tokens?
So that's the first part of what we're doing, and it has not been an easy road. Getting away from the wild, wild west of utility tokens or ICOs, creating a security token requires a lot of compliance with the laws, compliance with the SEC. It also requires that all of our investors are accredited investors. They have to go through AML and KYC procedures similar to a broker-dealer. So it's a bit of a process which has concerned a little bit of traditional Bitcoin investors, but has brought a new wave of institutional investors. So we're seeing a big change for the first time in ICOs. Now that it's a security token rather than retail, we're getting institutional interest in a very large way.
And when will the T0 Securities Exchange be live?
We are in the pre-sale stage right now. We're essentially looking to build this out in about 3 to 4 months.
So you guys are starting your pre-ICO, or have started your pre-ICO. How much capital are you raising in the pre-ICO, and where have you found the capital came from?
So we're looking to raise $250 million, and it appears we may have to do a green shoe extension up to $300 million because of the amount of interest we're getting. We have received almost 40,000 applications into the system. We've sent out or closed on about 80 of them and raised about $20 million thus far.
And the 80 million, or the dollars that you've raised up until now, have they been private client dollars, or have you managed to attract the institutional money by virtue of the fact that you guys are a security?
Absolutely, and that was the biggest surprise and change that we're seeing in the security tokens that institutions are getting on. You just saw a talk from John Burbank from Passport Capital, who's investing in Overstock. We saw Quantum Fund, George Soros invested. Morgan Stanley has invested in Overstock. So they're seeing something, and for the first time, what's exciting is institutions are getting into this blockchain game.
And if our viewers want to get in on the action and they want to get involved in your ICO, your pre-ICO, where can they get more information?
They can go to our website, tzero.com, and then sign up from there on saftlaunch.com.
So if you want to get involved in the world's first regulated securities exchange, or tokenized securities exchange, or blockchain securities exchange, that's tzero.com. So the North American Bitcoin Conference is not only the biggest conference in the world by the number of delegates, but also the biggest conference in the world by the number of exhibitors. We're in the exhibition hall now, and there are over 500 exhibitors exhibiting their Bitcoin products. This here is a mobile machine which allows people to buy Bitcoin. So imagine you walk into a supermarket, put money into the machine, or charge your mobile phone, and buy yourself a Bitcoin that you can send to your wallet. There are over 500 exhibitors in this hall, so much to see, and an atmosphere like I've never seen before at a Bitcoin conference. Andrew, tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing.
So Atheon is a digital ecosystem for businesses to incorporate all of their business processes using artificial intelligence, and then incorporate mechanical robots like this that you just tried.
So how would this work in the real world? Give me some real world examples of how Atheon would change the world.
Sure. So typically right now, business owners are laden by back-end processes, doing different accounting processes, trying to keep track of store inventory, cash register, all of these things. They could be doing fulfillment or different things. And how this works is it's an easy sign-up, works as simple as QuickBooks, except you're tying into the power of artificial intelligence, and then you can bring on these mechanical robots that work with that platform that's already existing, and you don't need to be technical at all to get into systems that large businesses are able to get into as a small business.
So with artificial intelligence being such a big theme, what you're saying is now any business can use artificial intelligence through a little plug-in layer or system that you guys build in between.
Exactly. So really the front end is designed to be extremely simple for those users that are non-technical, and there are some ways you can use it more technically as it evolves, but it's designed to just be set up and go so you can get back to focusing on the business you started and the craft instead of figuring out all these other technical things.
So after many requests to find Max Keiser, I finally found him, and of all places I found him in Miami. Max, welcome to Cryptotrader.
Rand, great to be with you finally.
Such an honor to have you.
I watch your show, it's fantastic, much needed in the space.
I watch your show.
James
it's also
Cramer
fantastic.
is old news, you're the new man.
I learned from the best. We're entering a very interesting period. We've had a great run in 2017. Today, alts are running, and ICOs are running, and Bitcoin seems to be moving sideways. Where are we?
We're exactly where we've always been. The pattern of trading is pretty familiar to anyone who's been in the space since 2011 when we got started. Back when Bitcoin was $3, we recommended it on Keiser Report. Whenever I come to a conference like this, people come up to me and they say, thank you for recommending it at $3, we bought it, I've changed my life, and the current 50% or so pullback is nothing new. Bitcoin will triumph, as always, and head toward the target I established in 2011 was $100,000. That's what I said in 2011. I'm sticking to that.
$100,000 by when?
It's compounding at about 1% a day. So you do the math. We're heading up that curve.
And where do you get the number of 100,000? Why is it not 200,000 or 50,000? What's the rationale behind it?
I was at a conference in Prague in 2011 with Rick Fogvinia, who is the head of the Swedish Pirate Party, and he did a presentation about Bitcoin, and he talked about it achieving 1 or 2% of global Forex market. And to achieve that level, you talk about $100,000 a coin. I immediately embraced that, and I can see that. My background's on Wall Street. I started on Wall Street in 1982. I bought Berkshire Hathaway stock when it was under $2,000 a share in my IRA. So I've been around for a long time. I created the Hollywood Stock Exchange in the 1996. I have a patent on the virtual specialist technology. And the reason I got involved and loved crypto when I first saw it in 2011 was that it solved problems that we had in the Hollywood Stock Exchange and the virtual specialist technology and the Hollywood dollar. But I was primed to hear the message. It was given to me by John Matonis in 2011. He came on the Keiser Report when we were doing it in Paris. And that's when it all started for me.
So when you talk about Bitcoin, do you talk about Bitcoin, or do you talk about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash? One of the analogies...
What? Bitcoin? What?
Well, one of the
what are you, a
analogies-
heretic? What are you, a lunatic? What are you, some kind of Roger Ver apostle? What? That's worthy of the name Bitcoin. It's plagiarism.
So you're a Bitcoin maximalist. Let's talk about some other coins. Do you look at the altcoin market? Or are you
Yeah,
just
of course I look at the altcoin market.
And when you look at the altcoin market, what are you looking at? Let's not talk specific coins, but what are you looking for?
Well, the altcoin market was birthed as a result of the slowness of Bitcoin development. The side chains and these types of scaling were not happening fast enough for a lot of people. So they just started their own coins and a lot of varieties of coins. And you have the crypto market as we know it. I think, interestingly enough, a lot of people here are talking about when scaling issues are coming to the forefront and side chains are part of the mix. A lot of these altcoins are going to be disrupted, out of the picture.
Let's talk about not specific coins, but let's talk about sectors. I mean, anonymity, one sector.
Yeah.
Decentralized exchanges.
Yeah, it's an
cross-chain.
evolution, very important. The centralized coins like Ripple, I think, are, as I've said recently, it's like the blue pill. If Bitcoin is the red pill, Ripple is the blue pill. It represents everything that you hate about people trying to be in this space, but it serves a purpose. I mean, the banks have done deals with Ripple, but they haven't done any transactions with Ripple. They like the sound of Ripple, they like the smell of Ripple, but they don't use Ripple. I mean, I talked to Matthew Mellon, who is a huge owner of Ripple a few years ago when it was, way, way cheaper. And I try to tell him, don't get involved in that scurrilous group of Bitcoiners, but he went ahead and bought like $1 billion or $2 billion, and he made like $1 billion, Matthew Mellon, and I never heard from him again. He's on a yacht somewhere. Matthew, call home. Where have you gone, buddy? He's already a billionaire. He's heir to the Mellon fortune. Now he made another $1 billion on Ripple. The rich get richer. Name a coin and I'll give you my thoughts on it.
Neo.
Was this the Japanese ether, essentially?
The Chinese ether.
The Chinese ether. Yeah, there's a market for it. It's doing well.
WanChain.
Don't know it.
Don't know WanChain. Lumens, Stellar Lumens.
We mentioned it, just talked about it. Rand, have you been listening to what I've been saying?
I have.
You're a respected journalist.
Cardano.
CNBC relies on you.
Cardano.
Excellent, interesting background because Charles Hodgkinson, that's the disease, of course, and not his name. I can't remember to pronounce his name, but he is a stellar guy. Charles is one of the good guys in this space, excellent guy. Anything he's involved with, I would support. He launched the show on my program. You know what else was launched on Keiser Report? Ethereum. You know what else was launched? Made Safe Coin. Bitcoin was in 2011 at $3. We've launched many of these coins on my show. How many coins have you launched on your show, Rand?
None. None yet. None yet. But I
Zero.
aspire. But I aspire.
Zero?
But I aspire to coins. Okay, Max, one more question. Market cap at the end of 2018. I want you to put your hat on the number.
I hate to do those projections because it gets people into the bad habit of day trading, which is a horrible, horrible habit that James Cramer promotes, and he should be shot as a result. You should be be a long-term hodler. Hodl. Don't day trade. Day traders for suckers.
Listen to Max. Don't day trade, and hodl. Move over Bloomberg because CG Blockchain's got this covered. With the whole talk about institutional investors moving into crypto, one of the biggest barriers is, do we have the right systems? Can we actually support the institutions? Well, CG Blockchain's got this covered, and I've got their founder, Bob, with me. Bob, tell me what you guys are doing.
Well, we started out originally with our Compliance Guard product to prevent hedge fund fraud. We've installed that live in traditional hedge funds. Now we're extending that to the crypto hedge funds who really need industrial grade constraint and restriction management to guarantee that what they're selling to their clients is actually what they're managing. We've then taken that and extended that to an ecosystem, a community, an open community of developers, both on the traditional side who support traditional asset managers. We're going to incentivize them with our coin to extend their capabilities to understand crypto. And we're going to the crypto community and saying, wouldn't you like the ability to constrain and guarantee that what you're selling is actually what you're managing? And we believe this is a convergence play. We're early to market, and we believe that while they're separate but equal right now, we believe over the next 2 or 3 years is going to be a convergence. And we want to be at the forefront of that. And we want to do it in an open way, where it really is an open community and best-of-breed applications. And what we have right here is an alpha version of our blockchain terminal product.
So what does this product actually do? I mean, run us through why it's so exciting for institutions.
Today, crypto funds are trying to get institutional asset flow, right? And traditional asset managers are trying to broaden their horizons to include crypto. This is the vehicle to do both. If you're a traditional hedge fund manager, you can on-ramp to the crypto domain, and if you're a crypto hedge fund manager, the tools and constraints that you can use from this platform will allow you to legitimately request institutional assets.
So what features does this have that
It's basically a collection of best-of-breed applications in categories. Right now, the alpha version have best-of-breed execution, best-of-breed market data and analytics, best-of-breed news, compliance, and a chat room aggregator.
And when will the product be live?
Right now, there's an alpha version. We're distributing this to about 50 key investors and clients, and we are poised for an ICO. We're going to complete in end of March, and then we have a 6-month development roadmap to actually extend the capabilities and really build, I like to call it building the scaffolding, or really the Christmas tree, and let the best-of-breed application developers plug in their ornaments. That's the way we like to view it.
So you said the word ICO, and as you said, I got very excited. When does the ICO start?
We've finished our friends and family round. We're in our pre-rounds right now, and we're hoping to complete the entire ICO by end of March.
Fantastic. And if we want to get involved, where do we go?
Please go to bct.io for the information about the initial coin offering, and also check out our website, cgblockchain.com.
What's up, man, Rand?
Hey, man.
Welcome to Miami, baby.
If you've been following our earlier shows, one of the themes this year from all our experts is a cross-chain functionality, or what they call interoperability. Now, one company that's been making a lot of noise in this realm of interoperability is WanChain. I managed to catch up with Dustin, who's their president. Dustin, interoperability. Why is it so important?
Well, one of the fundamental problems that the blockchain industry faces today is connectivity. Currently, the industry mirrors the early days of the internet. Before the internet, the global network was created, and it was a series of intranets. Right now, it's very difficult for the blockchain network to talk to the Litecoin network, to talk to the Ethereum network, and this means that the really potential of these digital assets is not being realized because they're isolated on their respective chains.
So if I were to liken it back to the internet, could we be in a position where there's a whole lot of different internets today? There's the Ethereum internet and the Bitcoin internet, and they're not talking to each other, which means that we're limiting the potential.
Correct.
So what happens when we solve that problem? What does it allow us to do?
Well, I think that one of the biggest, the potential of digital assets, or for these assets to flow very quickly with little cost, And right now, for us to be able to exchange these assets, we need to go through off-chain solutions. We need to use centralized parties, centralized exchanges that present custody risks in particular, and also create a lot of inefficiencies. And so when we can connect all of these assets together onto one chain, what we do is we create an environment that is not only very economical, it can be very economical to transact, it can be very fast to transact, and it's also very trusted and secure.
So give me a real use case, a real world use case of how WanChain would solve a real world problem.
So WanChain has the cross-chain technology we use. The way it works is what we're able to do, imagine when you go to a casino and you take $100 and you give it to the bank of the casino. They give you back a poker chip that's for, and then you go and you place bets, and at the end of the night you might have $50, you might have $500, you come back to the casino and they give you your $50 or your $500. With WanChain, you take for example, Ethereum. You deposit your Ethereum into WanChain, and we give you a proxy token, a proxy Ethereum, that always maintains a 1-to-1 ratio with a native foundational Ethereum token. And so you can exchange that Ethereum token for a Litecoin token, a Bitcoin token. You can run these through exchanges or payments applications, and then at the end of the day, you can take your tokens and go back and get them for the real thing, for the native assets.
In this whole period that I give you the token and I swap it out for, say, a Litecoin or a Bitcoin, where are the Ethereum tokens sitting?
So the key is that there's no centralized counterparty risk. That you're not giving it to Dustin Byington or Jack Lew or WanChain Inc. You're giving your token to a group of validators who have an economic incentive to behave honestly, who lock your token on the Ethereum blockchain. And then a new proxy token is minted on WanChain. Once we have all of these proxy tokens on WanChain, then a decentralized exchange simply becomes an application that sits on WanChain that governs the movements and exchanges of these tokens.
So there was a big announcement that your mainnet is up. What can we expect in the next 6 months from WanChain?
It won't be boring, I promise you that. We have a lot of really interesting announcements coming up with some great partners. It feels like we really are starting a movement here and pulling in not only just our team is expanding rapidly, some tremendous folks. If you're here at the conference, come swing by our booth. We got 15 or 20 people here. And then a lot of these various partners will be coming online. Technologically, the mainnet launch today is a fork of we're leveraging the Ethereum code base and combining it with Monero style ring signatures. And so privacy protection is a fundamental building block here as well. It's just not the case that if you're going to execute a trade on NASDAQ, that should be public information, or that everyone in the world should know how much money you have. And so we see, as we're building financial infrastructure, we see privacy as a very important building block. And so that's what we've launched today is a fork of Ethereum with Monero style ring signatures for privacy protection. And then in Q2, Q3 is when version 2.0 will come out, and that's when we'll anchor to Ethereum. And then we'll pull in the Ethereum tokens and all the ERC20 tokens. Soon thereafter, Bitcoin, and then a lot of additional public and private tokens.
Certainly sounds like a very exciting journey, and one which we'll be following. That's all the time we have for this week's show. Miami has been a whirlwind tour. It's been crazy by day, but let me tell you, much more crazy by night. We've learned a lot, we've seen a lot. We saw securities tokens, we saw a securities token exchange in Tzero, interoperability through blockchains with WanChain, and many other concepts. Go out there, research these concepts, because these are going to be the themes for 2018. I'll be back in studio next week with a whole lot of new information and studio guests. Until next week, my friends, trade well.